rumbling in the background. It's just a torpedo heater, salamander. But I figured this will be worth at least a laugh. Watch me put it back up in there. But it's pretty much the same as the reverse process. Sometimes you'll find it easier just to remove that axle. However, it does save time to leave it in. You gotta be careful that you don't tear this seal. So here we go. Let's try to put it in. Felt like an hour. She's up there. As you can see, I got my one bell bolt start there. I got another one here. I'm going to get another long bell bolt and put it up in the back. I can actually go up top and put one in. That way it's squared up. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go up top, put a bell bolt in, tighten it up, caddy corner to this one, and I can start putting all my bell bolts in the reverse procedure as we took them out. Okay, let me show you where we stand. Got all the bell bolts in at the bottom, up in there. That one that's hidden, don't forget about that one above the axle. Got that in and tight. Got the axle popped in. Drained all the fluid. Got the drain plug back in. I got the bolts through the flywheel into the clutch pack. They're tight. I use Loctite on them and torqued them to specs. Got the plate back up in, the dust shield. Got the bottom support brackets bolted up. Come over on this side. I got that bell bolt there, in and tight. Got the starter back in. Before you tighten the bottom one, you want to make sure you get the top one tight. And let's back up a little bit. When you're putting the through bolts in through the flywheel into the clutch pack, make sure you leave them all, snug them down and then loosen them up and work your way all the way around. Get them all started before you tighten them up. Otherwise, you'll have to back up and loosen them all back up to get the other ones to line up. So before you tighten one, get them all started. You got to get them tight enough down, not really tight, but run them down to the point where it's not going to hit the block when you turn the flywheel. And then once you get them all started, then work your way around and tighten them to spec. And I use Loctite on them. So let's get back to the starter. I got that in, got the top bolt in and snugged down. I got this bottom bolt tight. So we're pretty good at the bottom here. I think I'm to the point where I can put the cross member back up. So let's get the cross member back up and I'll get back to you. Okay, as you can see, I got the lower cross member back up. I got the two bolts in the front, they're tight. I got the lower tranny mount, the bolts through and tight. The two bolts in the back, the cross member, they're in, they're tight. I got a new slave cylinder I'm going to be putting in it, so I didn't put that in yet. I actually just got called. It just came in. They had to have it shipped over, so I didn't want to stop and wait for it, so I just kept going. It would have been easier to put it in before I put the cross member up, but I gotta go pick it up real quick and install it. So at least I'm this far ahead. I want to back up a couple steps because I forgot to mention I wasn't recording earlier when I first put the lower one of the bell bolts in. I got to start it on the first initial step once we got the tranny up in. I went up top, put one in and started it. And let's go up top and I'll show you what I did at that point as well. Once I got that bottom one started and snugged it up a little bit, I came up top and I put the top two in. That one there. I don't know if you can see that one back in there. And that one down back in there, you could just barely see it. And I tightened that back one first, went down, tightened the other one, Came back up, tightened this one, and then just worked my way around and got all the bell bolts in and tight. Then I started this top starter bolt. I actually left the starter out, and that's what I used to move the clutch pack around to get the first bolt started. And then I got all them tight, and then I put the starter in, came up, put the first top starter bolt in, and that has a ground strap with it. Ran that in snug with my fingers, and then went down to the bottom and put the bottom starter bolt in, tightened that one up, came up here and tightened this one up. Then I jacked up, then I actually lowered the engine hoist down a little bit, put this upper tranny mount in, and tightened that up, and put the through bolt through the mount, tighten that one up as well, and that's where we're at. So we got the tranny mount in, all the bell bolts are in and tight, the bolts are through the flex plate into the clutch pack, they're tight. I still got to do that rear mount back down there, but I'll get to that once I lower the car. It'll be easier for leaning over. I also noticed I got a cracked vacuum line there I got to fix, and it came apart over here as well, but that's no biggie. Let's get the axle in and start putting this side together. That way I could lower the car down. Okay, let me show you where we stand. Got the axle in, it's seated. Got it back up, through, in and tight. Got the cotter pin back in. The lower strut mount bolt is through and tight. Calipers back on. That's tight. I put grease wherever the contact points were on the pads. The upper ball joint, that's in tight and torqued. As you can see, the bracket for the brake line's back reattached. I got the, I don't know if you can see it in there, I got the slave cylinder in it now. Let me take you for a look. As you can see, the slave cylinder's in it. I got to bleed it once we get everything filled back up. But pretty much everything underneath is done. I just got to fill it up with fluid. There's a plug in the back, so I'm going to pull that before I put the plastic cover up, and then we'll go from there. See that plug right there behind the axle? Let me pop that out. That's going to be your fluid level. Just a rubber plug. That one right there. Just take and pop it out. That's where you're going to fill your fluid up to. Now you could fill the fluid through that hole and just fill it up to that level, or you could pull the speedometer assembly from up top. That's what I usually do because it's a straight shot with a funnel. Makes it a lot easier, and I just fill it until it starts coming out that hole. Alright, let's go up top and I'll show you. Also, you remember that bracket with those 3 bolts? The one that took the 13mm, the other 2 that had the 15mm socket head. Take and reinstall them and tighten them up. I already did that. Now I'm going to take that speedometer assembly and pull it out. When the transmission was out of the car, I already had it out. As you can see, the bolts are already removed. I also had the gear off the bottom because they tend to fall off sometimes. And if that happens while it's in the car, it's a real pain to get off, or to get back out, I should say. So I left it off while it was out of the car. So let me pull that out. As you can see, I already have the gear off it, and I'm going to put the fluid down through that hole until it comes out where that plug was. You're going to want to try to level the car, so what I'm going to do is just take and jack up the back until it's pretty much level, and fill it with fluid, and I'll get back to you. Okay, once you get your fluid full, you can reinstall your speedometer mechanism. As you can see, that's what it looks like with the gear on it. Reinstall it. Okay, I'm going to give you another update. Not sure if you can see down there. Got the speedometer assembly back in. plugged in, tightened down. All them bolts on that mount, like I said before, in and tight. I got the shifting cables hooked back up. New cotter pins. Clips are reinstalled. Both cables. And like I mentioned before, the motor mount's in tight. Ground cable's hooked up. Starter bolts in. Okay, looks like we're ready to put the battery tray back in. Okay guys, before I go any further, I'm going to bleed this slave cylinder. I don't know if you can see it down there. Okay, I don't know if you can see it down there, but I got the bleeder completely removed out of the slave cylinder. It's actually right here. Then what I do, I come up here, and I come up to the reservoir. As you can see, I put a new master cylinder in it too for the clutch. So everything has to be bled out. So what I'm going to do is let gravity do the job. So with that bleeder completely removed, fill up your reservoir. That's a little too high, but it's gonna go down. And since that's the highest point in the system, everything's gonna fill up and bleed out that bleeder, since that's the lowest part of the system. So we'll just give it some time and we'll come back, and you'll find that shortly. Then you'll come back over to the bleeder and you wait for the fluid to start coming out. Once it starts dripping, then we'll put the bleeder back in and then let it drip through the bleeder and then close it. And 98% of your air will be out. Then from there I'll go inside and pump it a little bit. Come back here and let it gravity bleed a little bit more. And it's usually good. We'll see. I just came back from a short break, and as you can see, the level in the reservoir has dropped. And if you come down over here, see how it's now wet. Let me see if I can give you a shot of that. You got a steady little drip down there, you can barely see it. That's telling me fluid's down there at that point. So now I'm going to reinstall the bleeder. Close it for a second. I'm going to open it back up just a crack. Let it drip out of that bleeder for a minute. I know it's really hard to see, but let me try to get you a better shot. See how it's running out of the tip of the bleeder now and dripping down? A steady drip. Okay, now you can tighten that bleeder up, and you should have a clutch pedal. I got the bleeder tight. Now I'm going to go inside and moment of truth. Tell me if you see that slave cylinder pushing the clutch lever. I didn't bleed it any other way, just that gravity bleed. Feels good. How's it look? I think we got it, guys. It's a nice pedal. It's a real nice pedal. I'm not even going to try bleeding it any more than that. Okay, so now I'm going to come up here and reinstall the battery and the intake tube and the air cleaner. Okay guys, as you can see, I got the battery all reinstalled, terminal is on, tight, air cleaner back in, intake hose is back on. I repaired that one vacuum line. Came over here, reinstalled that one plastic cover underneath, reinstalled the tire, got that tight. When I lower it down I'll torque it. I still got it up on jack stands. I figured I'll I'll try it out in here. That way I don't have to go too far and be disappointed. But it should be good. I got faith. Let's try it out. Always double check your work. Prior to turning the camera back on, I went over, checked over every bolt. I didn't go over it with a wrench. I just physically looked in there, felt them with my fingers, made sure they're all tight, and check for leaks. Now that everything's full, clutch pedal feels good. Let's try it. Fresh start. Let's see what happens. This one has an aftermarket exhaust on it too in the back, so it's a little louder than usual. Let's try it out. Here we go. Okay, I think we got it. I'm going to let it down off the jack stands, close it up, and take it for a ride. Then when I come back, I'll check it over for leaks, look it over one more time, and send it on its way. Good job, guys. I think we did well. It shouldn't take any more than one day if you have all the tools you need. You know, on a lift, I could actually do this. I can do a clutch job in one of these. I've done them in like 4 hours. But doing it on my back, it takes me a little longer. And plus I had to wait for the other training, I had to wait for some parts that weren't in stock. So everything adds time to the job. But all in all, it wasn't a bad job. And I think it'll be good. Alright, like always, thanks for watching, and subscribe to see more. Come visit me at the forum, toolsandtime.com. Have a good one, guys. Be safe and stay tuned.